science is nothing but a process through which you try to solve a business problem. Wherever you are working, if you're working on any of the product based companies, service based companies, or you work as a consultant data scientist, whatever is your job role doesn't matter. You will be solving a business problem. And to solve a business problem, you don't have to make any fancy websites. You don't have to make any Android application, iOS application, nothing of that sort. You have some tools. What are those tools? You would have a programming language. You would have some libraries. What is a library? We will talk about that also. So basically, you would have some tools in the form of programming, and using those tools, you can solve the problem. Whatever comes to your mind, it all depends upon how unique your thinking is, how much creative your mind is. That way, you will become a better data scientist. Now, this whole process of data science actually starts with any organization. If you are working for let's say Netflix, we'll talk about the example of Netflix today, since that would be a bit interesting. So now let's say you're working for Netflix. Netflix would say you to solve a problem. So they would have a clear idea in their mind. Whatever managers are, whoever is the CEO, they would have a problem in their mind and they would give it to you so that you can solve that problem using data science. And at the end, what they are expecting some insights and also some recommendation that is not random, that is backed by the data. Now, before data science also, these things were happening, but whatever insights people were finding or whatever recommendations people were finding out from the data, the pattern from the data, that was not actually backed by the data. That was kind of more experimental, kind of more guessed. So there was a lot of problem happening before data science. Now, why every company is running to hire a data scientist? Why is so much a buzz around all over the world? Is because every insight you get is backed by the data, and data never lies. You cannot ever go wrong if you follow the data. So this is a thing. You would have a problem and you would have a process through which you are going to solve that problem. So I would like to show you first how that problem statement look like and what are the steps you follow to solve that problem. So before going and showing you the problem statement of some of the big companies, now I'll first show you what are the components of a data science project, what you do actually in a data science project. So after the session, you would at least have a whole idea about the process. So first thing is, and the most important thing, the other steps that you know, they are not as important as the first step. If you don't do this first step properly, everything that you're going to do after that would be absolute rubbish. So first thing is understanding and defining a problem statement. What problem statement is just in one or two statement writing down what problem you are solving very particularly. Not in general, but you write a very particular problem statement that these are the problems we are facing and this is because of this reason that you know, and you have to find out more of the reason, and also you have to find out what we can do about it to solve the problem. So first thing is defining a problem statement. Then rest of the things follow. So first let's talk about a very interesting problem statement. So this is a problem statement that actually happened at Netflix. So what Netflix told to the data scientist working there was, take the data that we have from our servers and analyze the data. And after analyzing the data, generate insights and recommendations for us. So that would help Netflix in deciding what type of movies and what type of TV shows we can produce and what type of movies and TV shows we can take from Hollywood and Bollywood and we can launch on our platform, and how we can grow the business in different countries. What type of TV and movie show would be better in different countries? Like India wants to watch different type of movie. Spain wants to watch different type of movie. Europe, the whole of Europe, or you can say Russia want to watch different type of movie. So you have to understand what the customers there are watching. How would you know that? So you as a data scientist has this problem, this defined to you. It is not very particular. It's a more of a general statement, but you can say it's a very good problem statement that will be given to you. Now, after you have got the problem statement, what is the next step? You have understood what you have to do. And when you're clear about it, the second step would be to collect the data. The data collection you have to do, because if you don't collect data, how would you do anything on it? So second thing would be collection of the data. Now, collection of the data can be from multiple sources. Like you can take the data from the company's server itself. They would have a server, lots of data would be there. So if you're working for a big organization like Microsoft, Google, IBM, these kind of organization, then they would have already a very huge amount of data, and you would not need to go outside of the organization to search for the data. But if you're working for a startup, they don't have much of data on their servers. What you can do, you can run some surveys, or there are multiple public organizations like world-class universities. You can say Harvard, Stanford, Oxford. They do research on on a regular basis. And whatever research they are doing, they are collecting data for themselves, for their PhD candidates. And once they have done their task, they usually upload that data on the internet for you to use. So you can get data from there. You can use APIs. There is something called as API, and you can collect the data through API also. If you don't know, I will tell you. You can ask me later. Then you have other processes also, like you can take some data from web scraping. There is a process called web scraping. You can scrape the data from websites. So multiple sources are there. It depends upon you how much data you want, and you have that data or not. So if you have data, you can take the data from directly your company server. Now, if you're working for Netflix, you would obviously know that Netflix has a lot of data. How do you know that? Because currently in Netflix, around 220 million people watch this Netflix almost regularly on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. You can say 220 million people around the world watch it. And that's a lot of data. Now, what do I mean by the data? What are the things Netflix is storing about you if you are a customer of a Netflix? So they know everything. Okay, they know what you watch, at what time you watch, what are the type of movies you like to watch, and what are the type of TV shows you like to watch, the documentary, crime, thriller, adventure, action, anything. What do you want? So they know you, and also they know that what other people around you are watching. So let's say you are in India, in some of the states, so they know that you belong to India, and India these other shows are popular. So they would try to make you recommendations, other different recommendations they would make you. They would run a short clip in front of you so that you can just hook up, you can get hook up, and you spend more time on their platform. So just by collecting your behavioral information, how you behave on that platform, they are able to know what you would be watching and what you would not be watching. So that way they are able to identify for the whole country that what this country, what the people of this country actually want to watch. And also they in general want understand that what people are watching on a world level. If we launch this, like if any movie comes up of Marvel, so that is one of the movies that is watched worldwide. How they have got the idea? They have run through all the data, they have done lots of reviews and everything, so they have got the idea. But in here, if you are a data scientist at Netflix, how would you collect the data? You can analyze and you can collect the data directly from the company server, because you have lot of data. You don't need more than that. So by looking at the data, you can find out which actors, which directors, and what type of storyline is becoming very popular in any country. Okay, and what type of thing people are wanting to watch more, whether they want to watch more movies and whether they want to watch more of TV shows. Like if you would know that in Korea and Japan, if you have ever heard about it, they prefer watching more of TV shows rather than movies. But in countries like India, USA, and Canada, people watch more of movies. Okay, you would say that action movie, adventure movie, they want to watch more of that. So with this, they would get an idea that in Korea, they should be releasing more of TV shows. In Japan also, they should be releasing more of TV shows. So that way, by studying the whole behavior of the people, how what they are doing, what they are behaving, So they understand everything, and that way they are able to recommend you some shows so that you invest more of your time on the platform of Netflix. So that is the second step. That is the advantage of having a data. And if I tell you one of the very real example, one of the very big things that actually happened this way was, if you know about Money Heist TV show. I hope that you have heard about Money Heist TV show. So what happened with Money Heist TV show was that in Spain, it was already launched before Netflix. 1 or 2 years ago, already it was launched by other name, of course, in Spain. So what happened? It was a very big flop, very, very big flop. No one was going to watch it. So what Netflix did, Netflix already knew that what type of content people on the world level are watching almost regularly. So if they would want to watch that show or not. So they did a lot of analysis on the data that they had of all the customers, and they were able to understand that if we launch Money Heist on our platform by doing some marketing, by spending some money on the marketing, we can make it a hit. And you already know that it has become such a hit that it has earned at least $100 million of revenue, or you can say profit. Okay, more than 100 million of profit it has made for Netflix, just one TV show alone. So that is the impact you can make on the world level if you are working for a data scientist at one of these big companies. Like you are actually affecting the life of millions of people. So you have provided, whoever was the data scientist at Netflix, they have provided one of the very good shows to the world by doing the analysis like that. So that was about our second step. We do the collection of the data. After collection of the data, what we do the processing and cleaning of the data. So there is something called as, if you put any garbage data for analysis for any purpose related to data, if you're doing anything on the data, it should be clean and it should be good data. If you're doing something on a bad data, you are going to expect a bad result also. So garbage data in, and you are going to get a garbage result out also. So that is what happens in the case of data. So there are multiple processes to clean the data to make it rid of lots of impurities that can be there in the data. Now, after cleaning the data, you visualize the data. That is the next step. And what happens in visualization of the data? You would be able to find out a lot of important information from the data. Like if there are relationships in the data. Just a minute. If there are any relationships hidden in the data or not. So with the visualization, what you do, you basically make some of the graph and charts. Lots of charts, like line chart, area chart, some pie chart. So these are some of the name that you have heard. But in data science, there are lots of advanced plots also. If you use them, you can make something very powerful. Some information you can gather very powerful. But why do we need visualization? Because what happens generally is, if you just look at the data manually, you would not find out anything very important from the data. But the same thing, if you make a chart of that, any graph of that, any advanced graph, you can find out a lot of relationships. And that gives you an idea about the next step. That is what machine learning models we should apply, what machine learning applications or algorithms we can apply on that data. So if you have done these processes, first you have the problem statement, you collect the data, you clean the data, and you do the visualization of the data. So these four steps constitute something called as data analysis. You must have heard about this word, data analysis. So data analysis is a part of data science. So if you talk about data science in general, it has two parts, two bigger parts it has. First is the data analysis, and after you complete data analysis, then starts your machine learning. So what you do with data analysis in these four steps, you try to understand the past data, what happened in the past with that data. And if you want to predict the future with that past data, if you want to predict what can happen in the future, then you bring in your machine learning and deep learning. There is something called as deep learning, which is an advanced part of machine learning. So that is how the whole scenario of data science works. First, you have data analysis. You would have to do data analysis. Then you bring in machine learning and you take it to another level. You make it prediction uh, based model. It can predict the future results. So how it can predict the future results? It is learning those patterns from the past data. Now to understand this, you can take an example like if you are a baby or if you were just born, or some baby if you see that is just born, that baby doesn't know anything. Okay, he is not aware or he or she is not aware about anything at all. They don't know what is a bird, what is an animal, what are humans, or what characteristic a bird is having, or how does a cat or dog look like. They don't know anything. Similar is the case of any project that you are making. That project or that machine learning model does not know anything at the start. So how it becomes so powerful? You're going to feed it data. You're going to tell that this is how a cat looks like. This is how a dog looks like. Or if you're solving a problem like of a diabetes patient, so you would tell your machine learning model that if a person was having diabetes in the past, that was his, this was his condition, medical condition. His sugar level was high, or he was very fat, or he was not exercising very well, or he was having constantly a headache and something like that. Anything could be related to that person. Lots of things could be related. So that way your machine learning learns from the past data that with this medical condition, that patient suffered from the diabetes. So if any new patient comes in the future and you give the medical condition to your machine learning model, it will tell you that this patient is going to have any condition in the future or not. If he is going to suffer from diabetes in the future or not. Okay, and it will tell you what are the steps he can take to avoid having diabetes if he already doesn't have. Then once you make your machine learning model, it is going to have some performance. Like if you make any machine learning model, any prediction model, it is not going to be 100% accurate. That's very obvious. If you can make something 100% accurate, then you would not need humans in this world. So any machine learning model cannot be 100% accurate. It will have some flaws. So it depends upon how you make your model, what are the algorithms you are using. Lots of factors are there based on which you can make your machine learning more and more intelligent. Lots of things are there. So you would study them once you move into this field little by little. So you're going to know a lots of things, what you're going to do. So that is the next step, evaluating the models. How do you evaluate whether your model is perfect for the real world or not? Okay, you cannot just make a model and you can release it into the real world for other people to use. It would be a disaster if it is not accurate. So after you got that your model is not very good, it's not performing very well. So what you do, there is a process called tuning the model. Tuning the model means in every machine learning algorithm, there are some code that you can change a little bit. You can experiment with a lots of values, and with you, when you experiment lots of values, you're going to increase or decrease the accuracy, or you can say the performance of your machine learning model. So that way it is going to improve more and more, improve more and more. And then the whole process goes on for 5 months, 6 months, maybe year or 2 year also. It depends upon how big problem you are trying to solve. So after doing everything, once you have got one of the machine learning models, model is just a project. Okay, model is just a project. So once you have got, you're satisfied with the performance of that prediction model, you can release it into the real world. Or if you are solving this problem for your company, so you would have to explain what you did, what are the things you found out after the whole process has done. You have to communicate the result to your seniors, whoever is the manager or maybe CEO or any of the team lead, anyone that could be. So you have to communicate these results. So for that purpose, what you do, you would have to make presentations, and lots of other softwares are there. Like you would have heard about Tableau. If you have not heard, Tableau and Power BI one are two very powerful and very famous tools through which you can make very good presentations, or you can present the data in very visually pleasing manner. And anyone who does not know code can understand what you were trying to do and why you did it, what you did. and what are the insights you found at the end. Everything you can present very well. And at the last, you can, there is something called deployment in the cloud. So there are some of the servers, like there is Amazon server, there is Microsoft server, which is called Azure. And then there is Google Cloud Platform, GCP. On those platforms, you can upload your model so that people all around the world can use what you have made. Okay, so these are some of the things. These are actually the components of a data science. So if you make any data science project, you have to go through all of these processes. So generally, one idea you need to have that in data science, you have two things. It's a combination of data analysis and machine learning. So it's just going to happen that way. Now we have got one idea about the Netflix use case. Now let me show you one more use case very quickly so that you would understand this thing. Sorry. So we have this one another major project, and similar type of project is running in lots of financial companies. So what generally happen in this company is this type of project is, this is a more of an investment project. Now you would know that in today's time, a lot of investment is happening in developed countries also, and developing countries like India and like China or Japan, you can say, lots of investment is happening. Now, you are working as a data scientist for one of the companies that is an asset management company. What does an asset management company does? Asset management company simply takes money from a lot of people and they invest in some of the big startups or some of the big companies that is going to give them very good return. So when they make profit, they divide that profit between all the people who gave them the money, who invested money in this asset management company. So that way they are going to work. Now, the CEO of this company wants to invest in some of the startup that can give lots of returns. So in this way, what would happen? You as a data scientist would require to find out all the information. You take the data, you do your analysis, you do your study on it, you make prediction, whatever you can do. And you have to basically find out that in which companies we can invest our money or the CEO can invest the money that they are going to get a very huge return. They're not going to actually lose the money. So in this case, what happens? You have the problem statement, you have the data. Now, third thing that comes up is uh, this. When you're collecting data, there would be some constraints. So you would not be just collecting data randomly that whatever data you can get your hands on, just take all the data. Too much data is also going to have a problem because if you're taking too much data, too much problems would come in that data. So in many cases, you would have some constraints also. And how does that constraint look like? The constraint look like, this. That if you're trying to find out or if you're trying to find out, predict which companies are going to give good return, where should you invest your money or where should the CEO invest the money of the Sparks fund? They have given two constraints that we want to invest in the companies who are having 5 to $15 million of investment. We are just going to invest this much money at a time. We can invest more money maybe 2 3 months later, but at a time we are going to invest this much of money only, not more than that. And we want to invest only in the country where English is one of the official languages, so that it is easy for us to communicate with all the founders and all the CEOs of that company. We don't want a barrier of language to happen. So these two constraints are there. So what you have to do basically as a data scientist is, first thing, you have to find out in which country the investment should happen and in which companies of that country this investment should happen. So these are two minor constraints. Like this, if you're solving much bigger problem, you would have more of the constraints. Why these constraints are there? Because if you don't have constraint, it would become very difficult to solve the problem, or it would take years and years basically to solve a very small problem. So quickly, I'll explain you some of the more things also, that what is the strategy that CEO wants to follow to make the investment. So they generally want to invest in the companies or in the country where most of the other investors are also investing. So there might be a lot of big investors like the Sparks Fund CEO, and they also are investing money in different countries, in different sectors, in different companies. So they want to follow their footprints also. Why they want to do this? Because uh, if other people are investing in some company, then it is there is a very less risk that your money is going to go down, you're going to lose the money. So there is a very less risk about that. So that is the basic strategy where you can get the data. There is a website called crunchbase.com. That is one of the biggest websites that tracks all the investment, all the growth of any startup. And then there are some objectives. They don't need to go much and it would become difficult. So basically they want you to find out what type of investment they should do, what type of analysis, what type of country, in which country they should invest. And then they have to find out sectors, that whether they should invest their money in technology sector, automobile sector, or telecommunication sector, in which sector they should invest their money. So that way you are actually going to deal with in a real world data science problem. And this is going to be very interesting. Once you start working on it, it would be so much interesting that you would love doing one of these things. Okay, so that is like how you are going to deal with the problems. Now, this thing you might not know earlier, or no, not many people are going to tell you this. So now you know very good thing about the data science. Now let's move forward and try to understand about the roadmap that you have to follow in 2022 if you want to become a data scientist. So in here, what would happen? I would tell you all the skills that you need. Now this is an exhaustive list. If you know all of these things, you can get the highest packages, but you don't need to know all of these things. If you have 60% or 65% idea about all of these concepts also, it's fine. You're going to get a very good salary in whichever country you are, wherever you apply. So the first skill is very obvious. It's going to be programming skill. I'll share this website to you. You can go through it later also. So the first skill is obviously the programming fundamentals should be clear to you. Now there is an advantage in data science that you don't need to be a very good programmer. If you're starting new, it requires very normal level of programming skill. It's just that you should have a very clear foundation of the programming. You should not write bad code. You should follow some rules of the programming that is followed generally over the world. So you should know some basic concept that you should write at least some programming. If you're not able to write any program at all, you would not be able to make any project at all. So basics of the Python and some small things are there that you need to know. So in Python, basics are there. Then some concepts like list, set, tuples, and dictionary, functions, object-oriented concept. And then there are libraries. And what are the libraries? What they do basically is in Python, why Python is becoming popular these days is because of these libraries only. Now, what is the task of library? A library is something where a lot of code is written already by the developers, by lots of intelligent developers or very good developers. They have written code for a lot of things that you're going to do in data science. So what developers have seen actually that if anyone is solving a data science problem, they are following these steps in all the projects. So what they have done, they have written the code already in these libraries, and you will have to just use the name of that code. You will see how you can use that code and you don't have to write it. But for now, just understand it becomes very simple by with the help of these libraries, and you can easily make any data science project. It's not that easy, but as compared to other IT field, it is very easy. You don't need to be a master of programming. Then there is something called as data structure and algorithm. You have to learn very basics of data structures and algorithms so that you can write obviously very good code, efficient code you can write. So that is why you have something called as data structure and algorithm. Now these things are there in all of the programming languages. This is the foundation of the programming. So the first one, programming and data structure, this is going to make a foundation of you as a programmer in general. So once you have learned programming, then the next important skill that comes up is the knowledge of the databases, how information is stored in the databases. Because anytime you are solving any problem of data science, you're making a project, you would have to take the data from the databases. So you should know how to extract data from the databases of the companies or from other places also, how to deal with the basic of databases. So you should know at least some foundational level knowledge of the databases also. So here MySQL, every one of you must have heard. So you can spend some time, maybe 1 week or two, to get basics of your MySQL clear, and that way it would be better. And then in MySQL, there are these concepts, the basic you should know, then these operations you should know, and then window function. Likewise, there is a little bit of Linux command also. If you know, it is better, but every time it will not be required. In very few cases, you would be requiring to use some Linux command. If you're working in some company, they would have it, but not every company. Then you have something called as Git. Git is one of the softwares that will help you to upload your project onto a platform which is called GitHub. So GitHub is one of the platforms on which you can store all the project you have made, so that you can share it with the HR or with the uh, recruiters of the big company, and they can see your project, what you have done. So Git is one of that tool. It will help you to upload your project from your local system on the internet on a website called as GitHub. So you can go and see what GitHub is if you already don't know about that. And Git also help you to upload the code in the project from your local system itself. Anytime you're changing the code, you're updating the code of that project, you can sync it. Okay, you don't have to delete those files from the GitHub and upload new file. You can just update that code directly from the Git. Okay, so this is one of that tools. Then next come something called as big data fundamental. So big data is one of the field in itself a, as a data science. Data science is a very big field. Similar to that, big data is a very big field in itself. But the fundamental knowledge of big data concept will help you. Why is this needed? This big data is needed when you're dealing with very huge data. What does huge data means? If you're dealing about some information of 100 million people, 200 million people, 500 million people, so that is considered to be a very big data. That is how, and that is why this term has come up into today's world, to something called as big data. So if sometime you're dealing with that amount of data, you would need to use some of these tools, which are Hadoop, Hive, Spark, but not in every cases. Very rarely as a fresher, you're not going to do that. Once you go, you get some experience, then you're probably going to see these things. Then you have dashboarding tool. In dashboarding tool, like I told you, you would have to present what are the findings you have got, what insights you have got. You have to present that. So we you have basically three tools for that, and Tableau is the most popular one. So you can learn any one of them, but Tableau is most popular one. If you know them, this one you can learn any one of the other two also based on what your company requires. Then you have some mathematics, not intense mathematics, just some basic of mathematics that you have studied in school or in a few years of the college, in starting years of the college, very basics of mathematics. Because our machine learning algorithm require some mathematics, so you need to have these concepts, very basics of linear algebra, matrix, and bit of calculus. But these are not much. You're going to enjoy that because you're not going to remember the formula and everything. You will see that how these things are integrated into the whole process. So you will see this with the example of the project, so it will not be that difficult to understand. Then you have some probability concept. If you don't know probability, you can look up on the internet basic thing. So some idea of probability you need to have, not much, basically some idea as a fresher. And then bit of statistic is there. So related to probability, something which is called statistic is also there. Now for this also, so many concepts are there, but you don't have to study that many concepts. Some of them are important for you as a fresher. You'll be studying that, and these are also going to be very interesting because if you're studying with us, we'll be solving some of the projects using the statistics. So you will learn with a project, not like a normal course. After the statistic, what you have other is you have machine learning concept. In machine learning, lots of things are there, lots of different type of problem are there. Based on different type of problem, different algorithms are there. So you have multiple algorithms based on what type of problem you are trying to solve. So you can see some of the names of these algorithms, which are linear regression or polynomial regression, random forest. These are basically the name of algorithm that you're going to study, all of them. And they are very interesting to work with, and they are very powerful also. Then you have something called as unsupervised learning. This is a part of machine learning in which also lots of algorithms are there. So unsupervised learning is a very advanced concept as a machine learning engineer or as a data scientist. So you this thing also, once you get some experience of 2 to 3 years, you're not going to do this as a fresher. Then some other concepts are there. You would not understand that now, but everything will become clear once you solve the projects. So everything you are going to learn in the context of making a project. You're not going to remember theory and everything like that. Some theory would be there, but not that boring. Then there is something called as deep learning. Deep learning is generally the advanced part of machine learning. In here also some algorithms are there, and they are very advanced, very powerful algorithms. And you use them when your machine learning is not able to give you the desired result, the desired accuracy, performance you want. If you're not getting that, then you can use deep learning, but not every time you're going to use that. Then you have something called as natural language processing. What is this natural language processing? You all must have seen the voice assistant on one of your smartphone. If you're using Android, you must have seen the Google, OK Google. And then if you're using Apple phones, then you must have seen Siri, you must have talked to Siri. And if you have Microsoft Windows on your laptop, you must have talked to Cortana. And Alexa is also there. So to make those voice assistant, for that purpose also we use our natural language processing, and that is the field of data science itself. That thing, if you see how it has become so powerful over the years, what is working behind that, the data science tools and technologies are working behind that also. So you know that how many things are actually being made with the data science tools. So you are getting some idea. Then you have feature engineering. This is just a part of machine learning. You will study that later. So now this is generally the roadmap that you have to follow. And in the curriculum that I have prepared that we are going to study, we are going to cover all the things that is required for you as a fresher. Not everything you require as a fresher. This is a very exhaustive list. So whatever you require as a fresher, we are going to study all of that in very depth. So I'll very quickly try to show you what are the things in curriculum. First thing is you need to know programming, of course. So first thing is talking about the programming. So in programming, whatever is required for you to know in specifically for the data science, that everything will be touching here. Then we'll be starting with some of the packages and libraries of the data science field. So in NumPy and Pandas, these are some very powerful and very foundational libraries that we use for solving data science tool. And in here, we'll start making our projects. Okay, we'll start making some big projects from here itself. Then we have data visualization. With data visualization also, we'll be studying some of the libraries which are named matplotlib, Seaborn. And after that, we'll be studying about the Tableau also, the basics of Tableau and advanced Tableau, how you can make very good dashboards, how you can make very good uh, visually pleasing charts and graph to present your finding, whatever you have found out, how you can present that, we'll see that also. So in this also some case studies and some projects are there that we'll be solving. So we have Uber. case study that was solved in Uber itself. So that kind of case study we are going to solve. Then we are going to study SQL because this is one very important part of data science. You have to know it. In every interview, you're going to be asked the questions of SQL. So SQL also will be covered here. All the fundamentals that you need to know as a fresher, everything will be covered. And then we will see one of the analysis project also with SQL. Then we'll be going through statistic. After statistic, we will be jumping into our machine learning. All of the things that you need to know in machine learning, everything will be covered here. All the algorithms and concepts you see, it's just all the list of every concept that we have talked about. So everything will be covering here. And then we'll be making major projects and industrial case studies also. Okay. So that also you will be doing. And after that, after touching machine learning, we will try to see some deep learning also. Not very exhaustively, but whatever you know, you have to know as a fresher, you would be learning as a in deep learning here. So it's just a advanced part of machine learning. If you know till machine learning also, it is completely fine. Very rarely you are going to use deep learning in as a data science, as a data scientist. Then we have Git and GitHub that we are going to do. And then we are going to deploy our model in the cloud so that other people can use our models. And in this deep learning, what actually happened? I told you there is two field of data science. One is data analyst and one is machine learning engineer. So you can become a data scientist also, a data analyst also, machine learning engineer also. So if you're becoming a data scientist, you're not going to use deep learning that much. But if you become a machine learning engineer, in that case, you are going to use deep learning very extensively. So these are some parts that you should know, some of the relationship between all of these fields, all of these terms that you should know. Let me show you just this one last thing. How these all terms are related. AI, machine learning, deep learning, data science. You must have heard about all of these terms. So how they are related, let's just try to understand. So earlier, there was this field of mathematics, statistic, visualization, and EDA. EDA is just exploratory data analysis. You do exploration on the data and you do some analysis on that. So this was a separate field in itself that was done before data science, and this was one of the field that was developing from 1980s itself. AI, machine learning, and deep learning. This is in development from the 1980s itself. So artificial intelligence is a bigger concept. It's a very powerful concept, and to make artificial intelligence project, you have to have the idea of machine learning and deep learning very extensively. So AI is like making a robot which can work and think like human. So till now, after doing so many things, we have not achieved that yet, but people are trying to achieve this. Many companies are trying to do that. So AI is a bigger field, a very, very advanced field. In AI, you have machine learning and deep learning concept. So now where data science actually fits in, data science has come up and it has tried to use the best of both worlds, the best of this world also, analysis world, and the world of machine learning also. So it combines these two powerful fields together. And that way, if you become a data scientist, you can become the master of this world also. And you can become the master of this world also with practice, of course, with experience. So that is where the data science and machine learning actually fits in. So this was all from my side that we wanted to discuss, all the things we had there. If you have any doubt in your mind, or if you want to ask something that you are curious about, you can ask me now. Okay, so that was all generally that we wanted to discuss. I hope you have understood these things and you got to learn something new this time. Anything you want to ask?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
So I just wanted to know, like, in the field of like data analyst, like as you told that we have to
Mhm.
do some kind of EDA, then feature engineering, and all
Mhm.
that data wrangling process, right?
Right.
So I've heard about like there's a tool known as IBM Watson. So
Hmm.
that tool, it's automatically give the analysis part. So what's the use of manually doing the data analyst process, and in fact of using that tool? So I just wanted to know your view on this side.
Understood, understood, understood. So now what is happening is you must be seeing a lot of tools are being discovered for this process. Now, whatever advancement has happened, there are obviously many big tools of that has been developed by companies, not only by IBM. IBM has one of the tool which is called IBM Watson. You can go and study about it. Like this in Google also, in Microsoft also, they have very powerful tool. If you just give that data, it can find out a lot of insights for you. But the main process is it cannot do everything. If it was able to do all of the thing, then it would become as intelligent as a human and as creative as a human. So what is happening is the data that is collected in today's time, that is very messed up and that is very dirty. What do I mean by a dirty data is, let's say you have this data. This is the data of the Netflix that I was talking about. So like this, you would have much bigger data. Here we have a very few columns of the data that you're seeing. So this type of data you are going to deal with. So what problems are there? You can see there is an empty cell here. It means that in this column, the data is missing. And after that, in some of the cases, you would see the columns would not be very important. Okay, when you are doing analysis, you would find out these all things, that some columns would not be important. Some places there would be impurities. Impurity means there would be inconsistencies in the data. The data would be missing. So your machine, all of that machine that has been made like IBM Watson, they can work only on the specific part of the whole data science process. Like what you have done, you are going to take your data, and with your creative skill, you are going to understand the business domain. There is one very important thing in data science that goes is you need to have a business domain understanding. So with that, you would actually understand how that problem can be solved. To solve a problem, there are multiple ways, but there is only one or two ways that is most efficient and it is going to give us best results. So IBM Watson is not that creative that it can start everything from scratch and it can do everything till the end. You have to do all the things at the start by understanding the problem statement, doing some of the analysis on the data, doing some of the fixing of the data. You have to do manually as a data scientist. Then what you are going to do, once you are very satisfied that the data is complete for now, then you give it to your IBM Watson and you say that this is the type of prediction we are looking for. So you apply some of your machine learning and it is going to work on that. But this is not, but the IBM Watson is not going to do everything from the start to scratch. Something you're going to do at the start, and after the prediction you have got, you're going to present that, you're going to make it in such a manner that it is understandable by the people who don't know about that thing. And also integrating all the like prediction models you have made, you have to integrate that sometimes with the website also to make it AI enabled, to make it to integrate that with your iOS and Android application. All of that process is not handled by the IBM Watson if you see. So IBM Watson does that thing, but the starting things and the end thing you have to handle in that part. So there are lots of complexities in the data that is not understood by the IBM itself, Watson itself. Okay, so that is what. If such a thing is made, then any company would not need data scientists. So much of hype would not have been there. It's not going to happen only. That is why the data scientists are becoming more and more. Okay,
Okay, sir, got it, sir. Thank you so much.
good. Any more question from anyone? Anything you want to ask? Any? What is the duration of the course? The duration of the course actually would be more than 80 hours. So we'll see. It depends upon the people who are studying, the students. So it can go up from 80 to 90 hours basically. And we'll be discussing about all the things that you have to know, yeah, as a fresher. So 80 to 90 hours, you can take that duration. If you want to study the whole of data science, if you just want to study the machine learning and data analysis part, for that, it's going to be different. But data science is going to take that much. Any other question? Like if I can show you, there is this. There are some other data science roles also. Like there is not only data scientist. You can become a data engineer also. You can become data analyst. You can become statistician, data admin, research analyst, business analyst, analytics manager, data manager. Lots of things are there. Okay, lots of decision scientist, decision analyst. Lots of things are coming up in the field of data science, and all of them are going to pay you a very high salary, somewhere higher, somewhere lower, but around a very good range you're going to get all of the salaries in for all of the roles. So it's just not just that one or two roles are there, lots of roles are there that you can take.